We are talking with Nikki Goser, and your name is Nicole, right? You go by Nikki, and do you ever go by Nicole, or is that too formal for you?
Occasionally. Most people call me Nikki, though.
Nikki. I prefer Nikki anyway, but I was just curious. I'm a curious guy. What can I say? You, my friend, have been through a lot. First of all, let me point out you are a big Second Amendment advocate. You testified in front of Congress. You were questioned by Mike Lee, by Ted Cruz, and nobody on the other side, and probably pretty smart of them after what has happened. What was it, 2009? You and your husband, Ben, were out, correct?
Yes.
And why don't you go ahead and tell the story? This is literally spine tingling, Nikki.
Well, I guess some people would classify my husband and I as victims of so-called gun violence. I choose to call it violence because
Yep.
I believe violence is a behavior. It's not an object. And despite, what happened to us, I am still a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment, our basic human right of self-defense. Back in 2009, my husband Ben was murdered right in front of me by a man who was stalking me. And because of Tennessee state law at that time in my state, you were not allowed to bring a legal permitted firearm into any restaurant that served alcohol. So I obeyed that law and I left my legal permitted firearm that I normally carried for self defense locked inside of my vehicle that night. Of course, the man who was stalking me did not have a permit to carry. He brought that gun in illegally into the middle of a gun free zone. And I realized I was being stalked. So I told management, please help me. Please get this man out of here. He's stalking me. And when they confronted him and asked him to leave, he pulled a 45 from a shoulder holster under his jacket and he shot my husband in the head. He then stood over Ben and continued to fire 6 more rounds into him. I will probably wonder for the rest of my life if I could have prevented that. Of course, I'll never know because
Right.
I was denied a chance. I was stalked and defenseless. So I have tried over the past, well, over a decade now to try and educate people about how dangerous gun-free zones are. They leave good law-abiding people completely helpless and vulnerable to those that wish to do us harm.
Wow. So this all happened inside a restaurant.
A very busy restaurant. There were at least 50 patrons inside.
Well, I figured maybe I guess I wasn't familiar enough with your story to know it happened inside a restaurant. I thought maybe out on the street. That is unbelievable. Obviously, the perpetrator was identified and hopefully arrested, right?
Yeah, a United States Marine that just happened to be a patron in the crowd tackled him, and about 4 or 5 other guys jumped on top of him as well, and they disarmed him and held him until the police came. I've been told that the police arrived within 3 minutes of the 911 call. That is incredibly fast.
That is very fast. They
Yeah,
want to
they
defund the police, but that is very not fast and unfortunately not faster than self-defense, but fast.
right. They just happened to be at an apartment complex right down the street when the 911 call came in. But I can tell you that when it's happening to yourself or your loved one, it seems like an eternity.
Wow. That, so had you known about this person before that was stalking you, and why? Why was he stalking you?
So, my husband and I owned a mobile karaoke business that we ran in the evenings. We both had regular jobs during the
Sure.
day, but
Yep.
we did this as kind of a side job. It was more of a hobby than making a living.
Of
But
course.
every Thursday night, we would run karaoke out of this restaurant. And I had run karaoke shows in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. And this guy was a karaoke customer. He would come in to sing at these different venues in downtown Nashville. And it didn't take long for me to figure out that this guy was creepy. And he had an interest in me that made me uncomfortable. I ended up having to delete him from my social media that I used for my karaoke customer base. And he would keep coming to karaoke shows, but now he was no longer singing. He would just stand in the crowd and stare a hole through me. And it really freaked me out. And then he came back again, and he would just stand there in the middle of everybody and just stare at me. And Ben asked him, to leave me alone. And he went into some diatribe with Ben about, he had a crazy ex-girlfriend who knew how to hack into his account. The creepy messages that he sent me were not from him. They were from her. Of course, Ben didn't believe this phony explanation.
Right.
But he said, look, just leave her alone. We didn't see him again for, I want to say, a solid month. And then he shows up.
So you thought you had gotten rid of him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was creepy. All I knew at the time was he was really creepy, and I knew that he had a crush on me. Whatever you want to call it, an interest in me.
Right.
So we didn't see him for like a month. And then he shows up at this place 30 minutes outside of downtown Nashville. Nowhere near downtown where this man normally went for karaoke. And that's when I realized, okay, he is stalking me. That's when the light bulb went off. Because, as a victim of stalking, and I think it's probably like this for a lot of people that are stalked, they can't tell you exactly when the stalking started, because some of these stalkers are very sly in their methods. This guy, I guess, wanted me to believe that he was coming to sing, and it took a while for me to figure out he's stalking me. I think that happens a lot,
Oh, I'm sure that sounds like a stalker, the way they would go about it. That sounds like their modus operandi. Look like a customer, act like a customer, get closer to the victim, right? Does that make sense? That sound like him?
Yes.
Wow. That is so scary, Nikki. We're talking with
scary.
Nikki Goser, author of the book Stalked and Defenseless. And I'm gonna put the book up on the screen just so people can see the cover and you can get it. It's Stalked and Defenseless: How Gun Control Helped My Stalker Murder My Husband in Front of Me. Nikki Goser, and that's a picture of you and your husband. If you're watching on the video, you see a picture of the book, and that's you and your husband there at the lower left-hand corner, right, of the book.
Yes.
Wow, that God bless you. That is so horrible, and because you complied with Tennessee law, you were unarmed and defenseless, as the title says, and
Yes.
and that, this sounds a lot. This sounds. I'm sure you remember this story. I think it was Luby's Cafeteria in Texas.
Susanna Hupp.
Right. She left. She compliantly left her gun in the vehicle because it was a no carry zone. Went into the cafeteria with her parents. And some guy in a truck came crashing through the window, shot the place up, killed both their parents. And she could have saved them and a lot of other people who were killed that day at Luby's. But she, like most gun owners, complied with the law at her own peril. And this is what happened to you. And this is a danger of gun-free zones. That is so right.
Yes. And actually, I know Susanna now. She wrote the foreword for my book, and she is just a fantastic lady. I really, really like her a lot.
That her testimony was It was heartbreaking. It was literally heartbreaking. If you haven't seen it, you can look it up. It's on. I believe it's on YouTube. I found it there. Where you can also find where can we find your testimony with Ted Cruz? Can we find it on YouTube or on your page?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I guess you can just type in my name and Congress red flag laws, and it'll pop up. But my story continues. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people seem to think that if someone engages in murder, that they'll be locked up forever, and that's simply not true. This man only got 23 years in prison. It was a bench trial. There was no jury. The murderer gets to choose that, and despite all of the overwhelming evidence, the judge dropped it from first-degree premeditated murder to the lesser offense of second degree. And in Tennessee, that's only 15 to 25 years. He got 23. But let me tell you, when the police searched his vehicle at the crime scene, they found 2 more guns, ammunition, a baseball bat, binoculars, gloves, rope, and a knife. The police later said that he made a number of physical preparations that very day. He purchased the shoulder holster that he used during the crime, the baseball bat, and the binoculars that day. And the judge dropped
this. This is a case where the justice system didn't work. This is clearly, I'm no judge, but I have a brain. That's premeditated murder. And he'd been premeditating it probably for a lot longer than the day. Obviously, he'd been stalking you for a while, and he's probably going to get less with good behavior. Is that likely too?
Oh yeah, he's already earned the maximum in early release good behavior credits, but the story gets even worse. So he has been sending me twisted love letters from prison.
Wow.
So he's stalking me still. He's just doing it from prison now. What he does is I filed a wrongful death suit against him, which I won, but he's indigent, so I get nothing. But, the court paperwork it's sent to these prisoners while they're locked up, and the court paperwork had my attorney's address on there. And so he would write these letters to me and send them to my attorney. And the first 2 letters came before the murder trial even took place. And I notified the prosecutor, the detective, the victim witness coordinator. I said, I need this to stop. Apparently I need to get a restraining order. I need help to do that. And I want extra charges. And no one did anything to help me. So out of frustration and feeling defeated, I told my attorney, please just don't tell me anymore. If more letters come, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. And for years, he honored that request. He did not tell me. And then in 2019, he told me. And I found out about all the other love letters that had come over the years. And luckily, I can tell you that he has been charged at the federal level now with federal stalking, which is a max of only 5 years. That's not even long enough to keep him out of society, but I'll take it. 5 years is 5 years. So that's where we stand right now.
That's unbelievable. Wow. Just wow. I had no idea. How can they be that lenient? He came in, he shot Ben in the head and then continued shooting. He had prepared that day. Wow.
It was an insanity defense. Now, he did not win that portion of the defense, but of course, they bring in mental health experts, and the mental health experts, said they believe he has delusional disorder of the persecutory type and erotomania. So I think the judge took that into consideration. But, to me, it doesn't matter.
Right.
He's dangerous. He is very dangerous, and he premeditated this.
Wow. Now I'm sure naturally you feel you fear for your own safety if he gets out and other women's safety. This
Absolutely. It's terrifying.
this is not a normal person. Anybody who will kill somebody at close range in public in a pub, anybody who kills anybody has some mental issues going on, but anybody who is that brazen about it has got something that should require, at the very least, a psychological lockup for life. You know, like the was it who shot Reagan? I always get John Chapman mixed up. Was it him or it was? I always get that.
Hinckley.
Hinckley, right? Chapman was Lennon. Hinckley, yeah, he was locked up for many years for not in a prison. I don't believe in a psychological psychiatric ward. I think
Yeah, but they just released him a few years ago.
they did. Yeah, they did.
That's scary.
That is scary. But he got more time than this guy's going to get.
Yeah,
And
it's
wow,
really concerning.
unbelievable. Well, you're going to be in my prayers and a lot of others' prayers, Nikki Goser. I will tell you that. By the way, it's Nikki Nikkigoeser. The book is Stalked and Defenseless. And whoops, luckily there was no coffee in that mug. The book is Stalked and Defenseless: How Gun Control Helped My Stalker Murder My Husband in Front of Me. And I have been looking forward to having you on and just hearing this story, because people need to hear how gun control kills. Guns don't kill, people kill. Guns are a tool that is used for good by law-abiding citizens, not tools that should be removed from the hands of law-abiding citizens like Nikki, who complies with the law and as a result was widowed at a very young age. Just horrible. Where can we get your book, Nikki?
You can get my book at Amazon and Barnes and Noble online. And then you can also check out my website, stalkedanddefenseless.com.
Okay. And there's a lot of your story there. I've been to the homepage and I haven't perused the whole website, but I am going to get the book. I wanted to get you on, and I am going to personally get the book, and I encourage anybody to get the book, read the book, give it to somebody who may be a gun control advocate, somebody who's maybe a member of Everytown or Moms Demand Action or one of those organizations. Understand why gun control is a bad thing. The criminals will always get the guns. The criminals will always ignore the laws. Gun-free zones mean nothing to somebody who wants to take another's life. Case in point, Ben, and his last name was Goser. That's your married name?
Yes.
I am so sorry for your loss. I am so sorry for that tragedy and the fact that you had to witness it. I can't imagine. I cannot even imagine the emotions of seeing that.
It's very, very difficult, but my parents raised a really stubborn girl, and I'm not going to let the bad guy win. I've now, gone out and, I've tried to educate people as best as I can about the importance of our Second Amendment. I've become a victims' rights advocate. I helped Tennessee get a lifetime order of protection law established last year. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just a piece of paper. You're right. It is a piece of paper, and it's only as good as the person that it's against. However, I do feel it's important to have on record. It shows that you did anything and everything you could within the law to keep that person the hell away from you. And if for whatever reason, if one day they decide to violate that, then if you have to defend yourself and your loved ones from this person because you fear for your life and they violated it, I would hope that it would be a pretty solid defense.
Absolutely. I would hope so too. I've got to ask you, had you filed a complaint before the night it happened?
No, because I didn't realize he was stalking me
Okay.
until the
All right.
night it happened. And that's
Wow.
when I went to get management and said, hey, he's stalking me. Can you please get him out of here?
So
He
you
had
just
never threatened us. He had never
okay.
threatened us.
Yeah.
He'd never done anything that would warrant police involvement.
Right. Yep. There's nothing. You're right. There's nothing you can do. Wow. I can't even imagine. You are a strong human being, Nikki Goser, and to be out there doing the good you're doing now is just incredible. And I hope the next thing we can get is the removal of gun-free zones, because they do not they protect nobody. I mean, I feel the gun-free zones are responsible for many children in these schools dying, because nobody who's taken a gun into a school is legally allowed to carry the gun they are toting around with them. So, some are legal guns, but there are always, at the very least, there are always red flags beforehand that people ignore every single time.
Yeah, and
Real red flags.
real
Like
red
threat.
flags, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not. I am definitely against red flag laws. And if
right.
you watch a video where I testify before Congress, you'll understand why. A lot of people are like, "Wait a second, you are a victim of a stalking, and the guy murdered your husband, and you're against red flag laws?" Yeah,
Yeah,
I am, because I believe in due process.
right.
I believe in our Constitution, and we already have laws on the books right now that can address some of these issues where these people show signs that they are
Right.
dangerous. We should
Boom.
be using existing laws, not creating new ones, not incentivizing states to take on their own red flag laws that are
Right.
unconstitutional.
Right. The red flag would be if he came up to you with a gun and said, when I see you alone, you're done. Now that's something reportable. You've gotten a threat, and you've got hopefully a description or a name or something like that, and you can go to police. But you had nothing. You had absolutely nothing except, this guy was just creeping you out until the night he went beyond that and way beyond that.
Right. Now, his friends and family and some coworkers knew of the signs of danger, but I didn't know any of those people. I didn't know them. Nobody told me. Ben and I had no idea. We just met the guy, like, not too.
Wow.
I think he'd only been on the karaoke scene for, maybe 6 months, maybe. But yeah, there are people from his past that actually knew him that could have done something. They could have Baker acted him.
Yeah.
That's where you have somebody put on a 72-hour hold. They're mentally evaluated by a mental health expert, and
Right.
they go before a judge, and then the judge can make a decision.
Right.
Are they dangerous or not? They could have done that. There were signs. He threatened to kill his secretary. He took a shotgun and shot at hunters that were near his property, not on his property, near his property.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
and a number of other things. There
And
were
nobody-
signs.
And nobody said anything.
No.
Unbelievable. Nikki Goser, you're amazing. Your resolve is just very heartening, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you, and I hope you do great things in Tennessee, and which hopefully will carry, shockwaves or waves across the country. I mean, things like we need reciprocity when it comes to carry. We need laws getting rid of some of these gun-free zones. And we also need people who are able to understand that guns are not always used for bad. In fact, they're only used for bad by bad people who do not abide by the law. The law-abiding citizenry, of which there are hundreds of millions of us, obey the law. And you'd never know we carry a gun. Now, I've got to ask you, have you ever, since this happened, and I know we're running out of time, but I've got one more question for you. Having had this happen to your husband, have you been tempted, or have you worn a concealed or had a concealed gun in a place ever where, so a store where it says you can't bring guns in here or something like that? Have you ever taken a gun where there are no metal detectors? Nobody's going to know, and obviously, unless you need it, you're not going to pull it out. Have you ever done that or been tempted to do that?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I will plead the fifth too. I think I hear you, and totally understandable. Listen, I wish you the very best of luck.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Keep up the fight. What is your next fight? What is your the next thing you're gonna try to do?
Oh, you never know. Right now, I'm working on expanding that lifetime order of protection law to other states.
Yep.
Montana is looking at it. Kentucky is looking at it. New York just filed their bill. So, I think it's important to have on record. It's important for victims of extreme violence to have that.
Yeah.
And if you read the bill, you can look it up, Tennessee's lifetime order of protection. It absolutely provides due process. It does not violate the Constitution. And it's for the most severe cases. We're talking felony assault, where somebody is like beating you almost to death, rape, attempted murder, like the worst of the worst. The victim of that crime can petition a court, and it still goes before the court first to see if they can be granted the lifetime order of protection.
Good. God bless you. You're doing great work. Thank you for all you do for gun owners and for potential victims, for law-abiding people. You're awesome. The book is Stalked and Defenseless. It is How Gun Control Helped My Stalker Murder My Husband in Front of Me in a Crowded Restaurant in 2009. Ben Goser lost his life in front of his wife, Nikki. Very, very sad, very troubling, and potentially could have easily been avoided. Nikki, you have a great day. Have a great week, and thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll have you on again sometime. This story needs to be told, and it needs to be read. Go to the. It is. I always get stumbling here when I don't have things in front of me. It's stalkedanddefenseless.com. That is the website. It's the same name as the book, and get it. Read it. You can also get it on Amazon. Is it available in Audible and ebook?
Yes.
What is it? You are the executive director of crime research. Tell us about the website and the organization, if you would.
Sure. I'm executive director for the Crime Prevention Research Center. Our website is crimeresearch.org. And we're a nonprofit organization. We look at the changes in laws across the nation and also gun laws. And then we see how that impacts crime and crime rates.
Crimeresearch.org. Check it out. And Nikki Goser, thank you so much for everything you do and for being here. I'm so excited to have you. Unfortunately, the circumstances that enabled it are just horrendous, but you're telling a story that I think is so important. And I hope to have you back.
Thanks for having me.